Okay, folks, this is going to be brief because this is very, very important. So if you are not following politics right now, and I completely understand, because believe me, I can think of 100 things I'd rather be doing than listening to what's going on in the news broadcasts. But there are some things you may not be aware of because you haven't been listening, and people are tired of talking about what's going on. And you need to know this, especially for the love of God. If you are, do you see this? The bags on my eyes. I'm not sleeping now. If you're a woman, if you're a minority, if you're gay, and especially if you're under 30, because these things are going to impact you specifically, direct, and for years to come. I am not exaggerating. So one of the things you may have heard is that Justice Kennedy is stepping down from the Supreme Court at the young age of 81. And there's a lot of to do about this, and you may not understand what this actually means. Here's what I need you to understand. You can go research this yourself. Don't take my word for it. The more you understand yourself, the more able you are to make rational thinking, intelligent decisions that are going to benefit you and your children moving forward. So the first thing you need to know is that the Supreme Court appointments are lifetime appointments. These people we don't change Supreme Court judges unless somebody dies or retires. Okay. The second thing is that the Supreme Court supersedes the president. So ultimately, while the president can make orders and, sign bills and the law and all sort of stuff, the Supreme Court is the only office that can make decisions that overturns or overrides what the president says. All right. Which also means that if they support or agree with what the president is saying, when something comes through the court system up to them, they can solidly stand behind it and not undo it. Right. So all the bad laws that any president might sign into existence, it is the Supreme Court are literally the only people pretty much that have the power to undo these things. Now, here's what you got to understand about the Supreme Court that we're dealing with right now. We've got a mostly conservative. We've got, for the first time in history, like 2 women on the Supreme Court. But for the most part, right now, as far as the positions on issues, they're all conservative, ranging from moderate conservative to hardline extreme conservative. So the thing also to remember is that when we use the word conservative, we're not talking about conservative like traditional and old-fashioned values. No, that's all subterfuge. When we say conservative, what we're really meaning is stingy and mean and like backwards with our values, which means that the more conservative you are, not old-fashioned you are, the more conservative you are, the more you dislike the idea of gays having rights and being able to get married. Frankly, I think everybody should have the opportunity and the right to go be as miserable as the rest of us. I'm just saying. So you're against gay rights, you're against gay marriage, you're against women having the ability to control the reproductive processes of their body, like having access to birth control, like having access, God forbid, if a woman has to make that decision and terminate a pregnancy for whatever reason is going on in her life or the baby, she's not going to have that right. She has no control over that. They stand behind things like supporting rapists, having parental rights to the child if the woman they rape gets pregnant. Yeah, did you know that? I'm not kidding you. This is the kind of wackadoodle stuff these guys believe in. The more conservative you are, the more you are against anything that allows anybody to have any peace or comfort in this world. That's not driven by things like you get a pass if you look like me. Okay. So, and this is what's been going on. Now it's going to get worse. With Justice Kennedy stepping down, what this does is this leaves an opening in the Supreme Court to be replaced to tip the balance in the favor of more hardline conservatives. For those of you who haven't been paying attention, the entire congressional seats around the president, they're all filled by people with ties to evangelicals. All right. These are not Christians like you and I think of Christians. These are evangelicals who believe that the end of the world is coming, and they're all getting on the bus, all 144,000 of them, whoever that might be. And the rest of us are just going to stay here and burn in hell. Okay, so they're actively trying to bring on Armageddon in case you haven't noticed. All right. So if that seat gets filled, it will most likely get filled with somebody who's a very hardcore, hardline evangelical. Okay, who does not care about women, does not care about gay rights, does not care about people that don't look like them, all right, and certainly doesn't care about people who aren't Christian, all right, or I'm sorry, according to my cousin, the right kind of Christian, because apparently there's a right kind and a wrong kind of Christian. Who freaking knew, right? So I need you guys to pay attention and go look at what this is. And if you're having a little bit of difficulty understanding, keeping up with this stuff, comedy and humor is probably the easiest way to swallow bitter pills. So you can go online and look for comedians that are doing the late night talk show comedians. There's so much information about what's going on politically, and they make it easier to deal with because they put humor around it. But if you need to understand how this stuff is working, they're actually the easiest source to get information from. And remember, they're on national television, so they are open to criticism from everybody. So it's not going to be like a little pocket niche, a bunch of people who are doing conspiracy theory stuff that nobody's challenging because nobody knows what you're saying. These guys are on national television. Everybody can see and hear them. So everything that comes out of their mouth has to be on point, because if they're wrong about anything, they're going to hear about it instantly from thousands of people. So that may be your best bet to kind of get caught up here. The other thing, with this in mind, what I need you guys to know is that we have to fill the Supreme Court seat. It's going to get filled one way or the other. Unfortunately, right now, because the conservatives and mostly the spineless Republicans that are letting the president do whatever he wants to do without challenging him, check and balance, just like parents and children, there's a point where you got to put the brakes on and say, oh, no, enough is enough. And they're not doing that. So the thing about it is, we don't have enough Democrats in Congress, and we don't have enough Democrats with spines in Congress to actually stand up and do anything to kind of resist this and keep this under check and control. And all of the optimistic white light and love, rainbows and unicorns thinking is not going to save us. Okay, we don't get to sit around and gaze at our navels and say, oh, well, it'll work out and it's all intended. No, this is not the time to pretend that some great cosmic intervention is occurring that's making this happen because we all need to go through this. People thought that with Nazi Germany, and you see where it got them. People thought that when Mussolini came into power, and you see where it got them. Evil does what evil does because good people stand by and do nothing except gaze at their navels and say, oh, well, it's all good, blah, blah, blah. So you can't do that. Midterms are coming up in November. You must, especially if you were young, you must get out and vote. Supreme Court appointments are lifetime appointments. If we get another hard right conservative wackadoodle who's going to abolish gay rights and women's rights and, side against or for everything that is against people that don't look like them, we're all going to live with this, not just us who are over 40, but you guys who are under 40 and women in particular. You're going to be living with this literally for the rest of your life and possibly even into the generation of your kids. So if you're a woman and you like having access to birth control and having control over your body and the ability to make a decision about when you want to get pregnant, you need to get out here this November and vote in these midterms and unseat a lot of these Republicans so that we have more check and balance in Congress to handle this. We're up for some really bad times in this country. If you are gay and you like having gay rights and you like not being forced to go to gay conversion therapy like Vice President Pence would have us all do. He supports that, by the way, if you haven't been paying attention. If you like the idea of finally being in a place and a time in this country where you can go get married to the person you love, you have got to get out here and vote this November. And you've got to make a difference in the number of Democratic seats in this House. Because if you don't, and we get a hard right-wing conservative on the Supreme Court as an appointment without being challenged, okay, by Congress, which is what we're looking at, all right, they're going to take that stuff away. All right. So listen, I get it. Like, we're all light workers. We're all doing the right thing. It's all about la la woo woo. It's all good stuff, right? We're all metaphysicians. Right now, we're literally right here on the edge, and we've got to get off our behinds and do something. If you live in a world where you're so comfortable and none of this affects you, that's great. I wish I had your problems. I wish I had your problems that I could pretend that I don't have to worry about any of this stuff ever impacting me. All right. I don't have to worry about birth control and abortion because I'm not in that age range anymore. Right. I don't have to worry about getting married to my lover or whatever, not because of my gender preference, but because, frankly, I'm never getting married again. I just don't see the point. Not at this place in my life. But you guys have your entire lives ahead of you. And if you don't take the reins right now and get out here in November and vote, you're going to hand those reins over to somebody or a bunch of somebodies who clearly don't give a whip about you. And if all this nonsense you've been hearing out of these monsters after the Parkland, Florida shooting about these kids that were standing up and protesting, being activists, if all that evil coming out of their mouth about those kids is not proof to you that these people that are controlling the Congress right now and the mouthpieces for the Republicans, that they don't care about you, then there's no point in you even caring about yourself. But right now, we have to do more than gaze at our navels and hope for white light and love. We've got to do something. So when midterms come, get out there and vote. In New York, they did it. They did it. All the young people in New York went out, and the minorities went out and voted. And they got a 28-year-old Latina from the Bronx, okay, on the congressional seat. And she unseated the Democratic politician who'd been winning 10 years in a row and was identified to be the next leader of the Democratic National Convention. She unseated him because you guys got out and voted. And we're going to do it again in November, because we cannot let these people take away our future. Supreme Court decisions are lifetime appointments. Whoever gets in there, we're not getting rid of unless they die or retire. And remember, the average age of these judges right now is 70 and 80. All right. This one's 81. He didn't die. He retired. So he could have gone on easily another 10, 20 years like this. So that is my PSA for today. You got no one but yourself to hold accountable for the condition of the future if you sit at home and do nothing this November. All right. And there's no amount of astrology or magical thinking or wishful thinking or visualization that's going to save you from your paralysis. If you don't do something, you've only got yourself to blame. So get out there this November and vote.